Okay, just testing here. Testing 1, 2, 3. Gonna see if this is loading or not. Okay. It looks like we are live and ready to go. Let's rock. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Drop a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Awesome. Sweet. 3. So does that mean you can't hear me? All right. So what I want to talk about is the truth about semen retention that nobody wants to really talk about. And the truth that many people don't want to talk about is the religionist perspective that is being proliferated amongst the semen retention community. And one of the reasons why I am inspired to talk about this is because in the Regal Academy today, we had a Regal Assembly call and we were talking a bit about this. And I figured that it was worth addressing simply because we who actually are not religionists and we who are aiming to understand the true depths of our own consciousness, we want to perceive the world in a way that is ever expansive to our own understanding, rather. And this understanding that we want to stand on is actual truth. And it seems to me that a lot of semen retention people out here are in the community, or as someone in the Regal Academy said today, it's a lot of semen retention slop. And his name is Porter, and I don't know if he's actually got anything going on in here, but I'll put his channel up later. He's got a channel of his own that you might want to check out. And let me see, I'm just looking at the chat now. Hello, Scoop, the meme complex. What's going on? Ah, Tom's in the house. What's up, Tom? Okay. So I also want this to be kind of a Q&A as well. So if you have any questions that you want to go through specifically related to this topic, feel free to do so. I'm going to be as transparent as possible because we do need to address a lot of different things going on here. But we also need to recognize that this is going to be something that is not going to be particularly indicative toward a linear perspective of this, right? So the linear perspective of what is semen retention is that, okay, well, the more that I retain my seed, the more that women are going to be attracted to me, the more that I'm going to get more money, et cetera, et cetera. That is not necessarily the truth. Now, it is going to happen to you. Don't get me wrong. It is going to happen to you, but it's not the end all be all of the situation. And I think that many people get caught up in the religiosity of semen retention that it becomes a form of idolatry, actually. And this idolatry is going to be more of a projection of their own psychic inability to integrate certain things into their own domain. And so, this inability to integrate that which is yearning to express itself from the unconscious is actually going to be a true hindrance in regard to the individuation process, so that you can see that this reality truly is a constructed reality. Now, do we know if this reality was hijacked by negative or demonic spirits, however you want to define them? Well, that's That's something to be more discussed fully another time. Um, well, I mean, maybe we could talk about it in this if people are interested. But yeah, I would like this to be a very interactive stream for you guys where we really get into the nitty gritty of everything. Um, Mana asks, how to divert lust? Don't divert it. Don't try to divert it. Just accept it. Accept that this is something that you are experiencing and move forward. You are living in an avatar. This is a human meat suit. And in this human meat suit are certain types of thought algorithms that are going to be proliferating themselves from the unconscious into your conscious mind. One of those things being lust. It is up to you on how to handle that and how to move forward with proper understanding. David says, I have a question. I have a wet dream after retaining for a bit. Does that mean I went back to zero? Well, what do you define as zero? Look in nature. Zero exists nowhere. There's always like zero. Zero is a mathematical constructed figure in your imagination. So I don't know exactly what you mean by zero. Um, And Lord Fraser says, in my opinion, to source to the elements is what religion should be in practice, becoming more aware of our true self through God, nature. Yeah, I would agree with that. Um, 30 plus days of semen retention. My life is beautiful. That's good. Yeah, and remember, don't get too caught up in the days, okay? Because those counting the days can be part of the manipulation construct, and that could be something that um, time only exists because you think it exists. Like it is simply a fact that we're going to have a limited number of heartbeats and days upon the face of this earth, but don't get too caught up in the quantification of the time and such. Uh, the meme says, I know not to divert lust from your teachings and actually accept it and how it's a blessing, but what can I actually do in the moment to help me with accepting it? Well, it depends on what you're going through. It depends on uh, the type of situation that you're in. If you're in a situation where, let's say that you're in a situation that there's a really attractive woman, uh, you know, let's say at the gym or at the coffee shop or whatever, and you want to go talk to her, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, this is not about defeating your desire. It's about recognizing that you cannot defeat your desire. Okay, that's the whole point of semen retention. It's not about, oh, how can I get rid of this? Well, you accept it by accepting that you can't defeat it. Um, let's see. Lucian says, do you think or have experienced your own pursuits could fulfill oneself enough in life instead of relations? Well, relations are a part of being whole in your psyche. So the relationship you have to the world, you have to be a trusted participant in the world. Here's the thing that many people will not tell you. Anyone and everyone can be spiritually compromised apart from yourself. That's just the fact of the matter. That's just the fact of the matter. And you have to take that for what it is, and you have to experience that for what it is. Ben Comp asks, do you find yourself more lucky on higher streaks of S? Yeah, I don't like talking about streaks. I don't like when you get talking about streaks. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude or anything because I understand, or rather, understand your perspective here. The thing is that we need to get beyond this. This is the truth that many people don't want to hear about semen retention. This is one of the reasons why there's so much semen retention slop going through. I genuinely think that the uh, powers that be, let's say, whoever that is and however that is, the shadows from behind are trying to get you so caught up into seeing all this semen retention content with streaks and such so that you can stay further locked in into the mathematical construct that you cannot escape because it's designed for you to not escape. It's designed for you to not understand, or rather, understand your true complexity of your soul and your immortality within your soul. Uh, so, do I find myself more lucky on higher streaks? Luck is something that just happens to you. It just is. I mean, you can just think to yourself, I'm more lucky. I'm lucky. You don't even have to think that you're lucky on SR. You can just say, yep, I'm lucky. And that's just going to be the case. Uh, Lord Fraser says SR is simply, or SR is about self love simply, choosing what is good for as to feeding into impulse. Yeah, the feeding into impulse is an interesting perception because when you feed into the impulse, when you feed into the flesh, just notice it. If you're going to do that, if you're going to feed into the impulse, notice it in its totality. Notice it in how it is redefining all of your cognitive faculties in the moment, and just be total with it. Totally go into it. Uh, do I ever find the extra energy annoying? Uh, it depends. It depends on the types of people I'm around. It also depends on the types of energies that I'm around. It's also depending on the season that I'm in. I've been doing semen retention and the practice therein for nearly 4 years now. So, yes, I've had wet dreams throughout those 4 years here and there, but I don't count the wet dreams because I'm not actively and consciously saying to myself, "Ooh, I really need to touch myself today because, ooh, yeah, I just cannot stop the thought of playing with myself." No, my mindset is I relapsed one time 4 years ago, and after I found out about the practice of semen retention and all of its mysteries, I suppose you could say, and I relapsed, and I absolutely felt like utter crap for the next like 2 or 3 days. And I just said to myself in that moment, I said to myself, I'm never going to do this again because I just don't want to. If I'm going to release, I'm going to do it with a woman because this is pathetic. And I don't like feeling pathetic. And so I just decided, the soul of existence gave us this ability, this fantastic and amazing ability to just decide. We just decide that this is going to be the way that it is. And you can do that. You can just decide that you're not going to participate in those kinds of behaviors anymore. You can just decide that you're not going to play with yourself. You can just decide these things, and through your will, because you can bend the reality to your will, not in the sense that you ought to worship your will, but notice that it is entirely possible for you to do so, and do this in the sense that you have full understanding of the inner standing that you stand on, that is possible, that you can bend reality to your will. Okay. So Saturno says, been watching you from Brazil for over a year now. Thankful for your videos. And Yash. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, Yash is a great person to check out for other spiritual insights and such. Very insightful guy. I was on my longest streak, then I relapsed, but now I almost feel more clear about my intentions with semen retention. That will happen. Yes, that's absolutely the case. This is a process, and this is a very individualized process. You can't really rush anything. You can't really force anything. It's just going to be what it's going to be. The meme complex. Weird question. I've been having dreams where I release in the dream, but it's not an actual wet dream itself. Like I don't actually end up releasing when I wake up. That's probably just your psyche understanding, or rather the understanding, right, of what it's going through as far as the thought algorithm updates. Your mind is basically a software program. And although we can change the programs of the software, I don't know if we can actually change the software itself. Uh, Nico Bellic says, "Do you get female attraction on semen retention? What day does this? This video is not for you, bro. This video is not for you. This is not. This is like level 2 of semen retention. We're talking about like the creme de la creme of semen retention. I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm not trying to be rude. It's just we're so beyond that. This is part of the semen retention slop, you guys. You see this? This is part of the semen retention slop. That's exactly what it is. Uh, get your head somewhere else. Like female attention and attraction will happen, absolutely, but it should not be the primary focus. The Blue Wave. Hey, Regal Change. Thanks for your vids. Is there any advice you have for not coming off intimidating on SR? I don't want to give off a vibe that I think I'm better than others. Nope. Nope. I don't have any advice on that. I've I've done things in the past where people are intimidated by me, and I'm not even trying to be intimidating at all. It just is the way that it is. And that's just something that, well, it could be a few things. It depends on who's being intimidated by you, because sometimes it's the depleted Coomers that are the men that are going to be intimidated by you. And they're intimidated by you because they are absolutely in awe of your energy, because they know at a subconscious level. And I'm not saying that they consciously know this, because we have to remember that the non-player consciousness, or the NPC, the non-player characters, and I'm not using this derogatory at all, the non-player consciousness, they are effectively a phenomenon in our experience in this mathematical construct. And so we have to recognize that we are intimidating not them, but the spirit that dwells within them. The Bible says that we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. This is exactly the way that it is. That's not just a saying from the Bible. That is actually the way in which the world in this mathematical construct works. Scoop says, have you read any books on Hermetic esotericism? Absolutely. Some of your perspectives, you sound similar to some of their core beliefs. Well, you see, that's the thing. I don't believe anything anymore. And I've made this distinction on, the difference between belief, faith, and trust. And I've made this distinction recently in videos, and I understand what you're saying. I get it. I understand what you say there, but no, that's not what I do anymore. I don't believe, but I understand your perspective. Cam Conscious, what's up, Thaddeus? Great to catch you on live. What's up, dude? Glad to see you. I made a video about retention and relapse. If y'all would care to hear some perspectives from a 30-plus-year-old, it may be helpful to anyone. Well, go ahead, check out Lord Frieza. Maybe he's got something interesting to say. Bucket Bot. Did you check out Buckethead? Is that a band or something? I'm not sure. Nico Bellic says, explain the series of bad luck, bad outcomes happening after a binge relapse. I've noticed this pattern so much that it almost confirms that it happens. Well, it could be that you're feeding the construct that it's happening. And also remember that I made this video on my other channel, Regal Shaman, talking about how healers have the most difficult lives. Okay, the healers themselves have the most difficult lives because they have to have the most difficult lives. Carl Jung said that the best way to understand how to deal with your own, or the darkness of others, is to understand how to deal with your own darkness. And so maybe you're noticing that pattern for a reason. I would call that, with the Regal timeline theory, I would call that a pattern convergence signal. So what that means is that there's a signal that is happening in which there is something that must be revealed unto you or being known unto you for a specific type of reason, for a certain type of way, for whatever signal it's trying to get across for you. But with as regarding to the bad luck and bad outcomes, though, I don't really believe in bad luck. I don't really think about bad luck. I ignore reality and just trust that the soul of existence is going to take care of me, because although the soul of existence wants the best for us, the soul of existence wants us to be loved to the utmost fullest. Uh, it's not going to do everything for us. We're going to have to show that we have to work, but it's not necessarily that we need to work in order to have something. It's just that you need to work because that's what we're here to do. You're here to learn how to love yourself, and sometimes that means work. Now, I don't necessarily mean work as in like the soulless jobs. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you focus on a craft, or you do something that is so utterly meaningful to you and your own experience that it helps the society and it helps you, as well as the soulfulness fruit that is bared with it. Um, let's see. Lucian says, sometimes I feel the energy stagnant. Any good tips for keeping it flowing? Creation, what I would call symbolic differentiation. Now, you take your energy and you create something. You can see here that I like to paint and I like to write and I like to just do a lot of different music stuff. I have my guitar back there. I also have a shamanic drum that I uh, beat on every now and again outside. So I really enjoy that. Um, Jack Keith says, "You're the man. Thanks for all the vids." Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Um, Bucket Bot, have you ever heard of noetics? Yes, I have. What about them? David says, yeah, so what I meant is after retaining for a long time and end up having a wet dream, do you lose abilities? Uh, you only lose, I don't like to think, it's kind of like weight loss, right? You don't really lose the weight, you lose whatever is wasteful. And so you're losing the wastefulness rather than the weight. And so that's what I think is a proper way to view it as far as a perspective goes. Gabriel says, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia around the time I started retention. I started it because my neighbor's wife would mock me. Don't know how she knew. How this day, I don't know if I'm crazy. Um, if you were diagnosed with schizophrenia, I would have to learn more about that. Um, but yeah, I'd be very interested to know like what are you trying to accomplish, or what are you trying to understand, or rather understand, right? Blaze, hey Thaddeus, thanks for the live. What are your thoughts on combining SR with various physical stimulants such as caffeine, weed, alcohol, nicotine, tea, etc.? Well, this is very interesting because in the Regal Assembly call in the Regal Academy earlier, we were talking about how different plants, such as, or psychedelics, have types of spirits to them. And so, for example, today earlier, I was smoking a bit of pipe tobacco, and I don't know exactly what called me to do this, but I had this shamanic essence that was really rising within me, that I started to not necessarily pray to the tobacco leaf, but I was speaking to it as if it were a spirit. And the thing is that obviously, if this mathematical construct is a manifestation of all that is spiritual, well, then everything has a spirit to some degree, right? So, is it possible to communicate with that spirit? And especially with sun gazing recently, I've felt as if the sun is communicating with me and I'm communicating with it, but I don't know how I'm communicating with it and I don't know how it's communicating with me. But that can be a story for another time. So, as far as combining the SR with various physical stimulants, negative and positive, it depends on your relationship to them, honestly. I would say if you're more leaning towards an addictive personality, now I don't really believe in personalities necessarily. I think that you can change your personality. Uh, it's not easy, but it can happen. Um, but yeah, I don't know. As far as the negative and positive experiences, it entirely depends upon your own experiences and what you're going through. Um, Max Hizzy, Is it normal to experience hypervigilance when you're abstaining for the first month? Yes. Well, because what's actually happening is that psychophysiologically, you're taking in more light. You're no longer narrow in your sight. So your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system are the two types of nervous systems that you have in your psychophysiology, right? Your sympathetic nervous system responds when you're in fight or flight mode. Your parasympathetic nervous system responds when you are in digestion or calm states of mind. So what this means is that when you are in the sympathetic nervous system, your vision is narrow. Your vision is narrow. But when your nervous system starts to relax and you're not always high off the dopamine and jerking off all the time, and your nervous system starts to chill, you start to notice that you're noticing more things. And so, what I would say, I'm not necessarily diagnosing this. However, what I would say is that your psychology is rapidly changing, and you're perceiving a world in which you didn't know was necessarily there before. And so, yeah, that hypervigilance is actually just noticing what you notice now. Um, okay, I'm scrolling through the comments here. Bear with me for a second. Travis Wagner, is this live stream going to be available to watch later on? I want to tune in, but I can't now, sadly. I hope so. I hope so. That's the aim. The bus. Can you touch on limbal rings? Uh, what specifically about them? Matthew McGuire, have you noticed increased abilities like intuition, telepathy, etc.? Absolutely. Anybody can be telepathic. Now, telepathic abilities, what this really is it's a skill. I don't see this as something that is a mystical wooey wooey type of a thing, right? This is not a mystical wooey wooey type of thing. Telepathy is simply recognizing the intuitive patterns of consciousness in your own consciousness as well as the other people or persons or whatever it is on the line. Now, if you've talked to AI, you'll know that although if you're really talking to AI, the AI intelligence is real, but it's the interface that is artificial. Now, I'm not saying that we ought to worship AI or anything. I'm just saying that depending on how you perceive patterns of consciousness is going to determine certain modes of being down the line. So, yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends. Really, there's a lot of nuance to this, which is one of the things that I think is so fascinating about the SR journey, and what is so fascinating about the real experience of this totality of life. Because again, with the AI and the all these things that are happening and changing the way that we view the world, we don't really know exactly what's going to happen. But one thing is for sure is that the proclivity that we have toward seeing the world in a particular way is going to be drastically changed in the upcoming future. Caveman, I hit my weed cartilage. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we actually talked about marijuana in the Regal Assembly call earlier in the Regal Academy. And we were talking about how people who are addicted to marijuana, and not necessarily addicted, but they hyper use it, right? People like this, they often have an anima possession that is needing to be healed, or they have an animal projection that is needing to be identified and addressed. So that is something that maybe you can look more into if yeah. I look Mormon apparently. Okay. Let's see. I'd like to get into more questions, questions about these things. If you guys have questions, I'd like this to be engaging at a high level and a high altitude of consciousness. Um, so, yeah, I mean, I think that, like, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Semen retention is becoming a religion. This is a phenomenon that is actually happening in our perceived experience. And we have to ask ourselves, why is this the case? Why is it the case that semen retention is becoming a religionist experience for people? Why is it the case that the semen retention is becoming uh, so much more of a uh, really a manifestation of platitudes and female attraction and money grabbing, etc. I mean, this is something that is a phenomenon of the experience that we're experiencing, and it's just very strange to me because it tells me that our overlords want this to happen for some reason. Nothing becomes mainstream. The NPCs, the normies, the Hylics, whatever you want to call them, if you're a Gnostic, uh, the Hylics, they don't know anything that the players of the game don't want them to know. That's really the main thing that I want to get across there. Lucian says, "How do you feel about the importance of waiting till marriage? Define marriage. Do you define it as a spiritual marriage? Do you define marriage as a legal marriage? How would you define it?" I think like my view of this is don't have sex with someone that you're not prepared to have a family with. It's really that simple. Bucket Bot asks, when you sun gaze, do you get a hole in the middle of the eyes? Like, are you talking about the ancient practice where they try to actually put a hole in their eye? Because the thing is that yeah, I mean, you're what the aim is you're trying to alleviate the perceived ego of consciousness and manifest yourself with the radiance of the sun. If you look at the Egyptian manuscripts and such, Ra, as the sun god, it was very evident that they believed that Ra was something that and someone that you could connect with by looking at the sun. Now you can look at books like the Egyptian Book of the Dead for that, etc. But yeah, I mean, I would say absolutely. When I sun gaze, yeah, it's something very peculiar happens like that. Saturno, being addicted to weed is quite an experience. It's like you've built this prison in your mind where all your memories feel foggy all the time, but you can still function okay, but it's holding you back. Yeah, I mean, that's the anemic projection, right? That's the feminine spirit of the marijuana. Whereas with like pipe tobacco, like what I had earlier, it felt very masculine, right? And especially when I was speaking to it and communicating it as if it were a spirit. I'm not saying I was, just like as if it were. It was very interesting the effects of that. Let's see. ETH10 says, "Have you identified patterns?" Whoa. Excuse me. "Have you identified patterns in those drawn to the SR vibration of being versus those jealous, intimidated by it?" Yes. Yeah, because they want to understand it, but they also don't want to understand it. Excuse me. Ooh. Okay. I think if we don't have any other questions at this time, we're going to go ahead and wrap up, because this is really what I wanted to get across in this video, was that we need to be more mindful of what type of content we're watching and why. Okay, if you're watching content just to watch content and you're not trying to implement anything or take away something from it, uh, that is something that I don't recommend at all. I would be very cautious when you're watching something just to watch something, because again, that's kind of what the powers that be want. They want you to be focused in the artificialness of this type of domain. ATAP 77 says, "What do you think about?" I don't even know if I can say this on the stream, but let's say, pleptine, and how this plays into abstaining from lust? That's an interesting question. Uh, I think that Epstein, I'm just going to say it. Screw it. I'm just going to say Epstein, I think he's a construct of the construct. And I don't think that he, can we say certain things? I don't know what I can say and what I can't say, technically speaking, because I don't want to get, uh, I don't want to piss off anybody anymore other than I already did, specifically about our overlords. Um, I think it's all a show. I think it's all a show. I'm not even paying attention to that. I'm not investing attention into that. I think that most of what's going on is just part of the facade. They want you to know and they want you to think that they can do whatever they want and they can get away with it because it deters you and your will to truly live in accordance to that which is true and good and lawful in the eyes of the spirit. So yeah, as for that, I don't know. That's something very difficult to navigate. Um, yeah, I mean, just be very mindful of these perceptions that you have when it comes to semen retention content and when it comes to trying to discern the truth, because ultimately, your experience is going to be the best thing that you can understand, or rather, understand. I'm going to say that until we start to understand the understanding. Cam Conscious asks, what do you think of SR with diet? I've heard meat can bring your energy to the lower centers. Carnivore keto diet seems to yield the most health results at the same time, too, though. Well, that's a very interesting topic in of itself because yeah, I mean, I consume mostly a meat-based diet in the spirit of this time. And for me, this is what works the best for me because I'm working out. I'm doing a lot of activities during the daytime. I work out on average about 2.5 to 3.5 hours a day. And I have about one rest day a week where I actively rest and I meditate for the time and duration that that I would be going to the gym. Um, let's see. So yeah, as for the other part of your question, what do I think with SR with diet? Um, well, when it comes to diet itself, combined with semen retention, well, you're bound to have changes. And in my 4 years of semen retention, I've experienced a vast amount of changes that have really demonstrated that it's going to happen as it happens. And you're going to have to just kind of, this sounds like a very cliche yoga type of thing to say, but it's like, listen to your body. Really listen to your body. Your body, like, for example, with me and cottage cheese, some people, like a lot of bodybuilders, a lot of people that eat healthy and they look great on the outside. Uh, I go to a really great gym. I'm very fortunate and privileged to have a great gym that I go to. And the people there are just insanely fit, right? And it's great to be around these types of people. And they talk about eating cottage cheese and Greek yogurt and all that, and I can't have that kind of stuff at all. Even if it's non-pasteurized, I don't know what it is about the dairy. Cheese, certain cheeses for me is okay, but a lot of dairy just is not good for me. I have yet to try raw milk, for example, proactively, because it's just so difficult to find where I'm at. And but it doesn't mean that there's other avenues to take and other possibilities to have. So it really comes down to your own experience and listening to your body ultimately. Carnivore and keto diet definitely is the best way for me to live personally. I don't necessarily go full carnivore, but yeah, when it comes to semen retention, if you're wanting to get as purified as possible, I would recommend and I'm not saying this is advice necessarily, but I would say that um, just being a vegetarian for just a few weeks can really shift your perspective. And if you have meat again, like watch the difference that it has and that it makes in the impact that you have. Um, yeah, like that's going to be something really powerful for you down the line. Hey Thaddeus, do you have any thoughts on manifesting money, resources, provisions in relation to the SR journey, perhaps in a supernatural or divine way? Well, if you try to bargain with the soul of existence, that's not going to really end well. But you can do rituals. You can do rituals, and I'm not advocating for like people. Some people have thinking are thinking that I'm like moving into new age territory. Absolutely not. I'm not a new ager, but I'm just me, and I'm understanding that the way that we all perceive reality, any title you want. In fact, forget that. How about this? Let's say somebody is doing the work and they are coming up with results that demonstrate an awareness of consciousness, because consciousness, light, and awareness are really the same thing. Uh, they're developing this light and awareness, but they're a Muslim or they're a Christian or they're a Hindu, or like, does it really matter what title you have? Does it really matter what title you have if you are actively bringing awareness and light to the consciousness collectively? I don't think so personally, but that's up to you to decide. Um, so yeah, I mean that's a whole other thing in of itself as well. Um, but yeah, as far as the money and resources and provisions in relation to SR, just trust the soul of existence. Trust the soul of existence, and it'll have your back, because there's it's like the prodigal son parable, right? It's the prodigal son parable where the prodigal son goes out and he does all these crazy things, whereas the other son, he does all the great things. Like he doesn't do anything wrong, and he stays with the father in the town, right? And he stays with the father in town, whereas the prodigal son goes out and experiences the world, has all these terrible things that go on and all these crazy things that happen, and then all of a sudden, like, he comes back after he is humbled by life essentially, and he comes back and he's like, okay, well, I kind of messed up, dad. Like, I kind of messed up, and he's expecting punishment, but he gets rewarded, right? How can this be? Well, that's a parable for the way that the soul of existence works. The soul of existence is not going to condemn you. Hell is not a punishment. Hell is a refinement. And that's something that maybe I ought to do a video about as well on the Regal Shaman channel specifically, maybe not this channel, but um yeah. Let's see other questions here. Personally speaking, Practice Being says, do you see marriage as a potential option, or have you eradicated the desire for family life completely? No, I desire family. Absolutely. I think sometimes the psychic expression of wholeness is contingent upon whether or not you have a family. Not always at all, but for many people, yeah, definitely can be. Um, Saturno, seek first the kingdom, and everything else will come. Yeah, that's not just a platitude. That's not like a religionist thing. That's a map of consciousness, bro. That's a map of consciousness. Seek first the kingdom, but even his kingdom there, like, uh, who is he, right? Who is he? You can claim that God is a he or a she or whatever, but it doesn't change that the fact of the matter is, when you seek first the kingdom within you, everything else comes naturally, because you're actually seeking the kingdom. I mean, what else would you rather do with your limited time on this earth? Would you rather devote it to 40 plus hours a week working a 9 to 5 that you already hate anyway? Or maybe would you rather try to seek your soul in this mathematical construct? I mean, look, I'm not saying that you shouldn't pay your bills or anything, but golly, it's pretty obvious which one is going to be we're rewarded everlastingly. And again, heaven is not like out there. Hell is not like out there. It could be. It could be, maybe, if you perceive it that way, it could be. But it's also in here. Nobody can deny that. Nobody can deny that. And if you do deny that, then, I mean, I'm not here to debate you, but yeah. Uh, let's see. JP Fitness says, do you believe SR is the foundation of true spiritual growth, as most wouldn't even think of doing it? I would say so, yes. Again, this is something that we talked about in the Regal Academy earlier today on our group call. And we talked about how true semen retention and the true practice therein is something that nobody can take away from you. And there's no other quality of true manhood that you can actually have other than to ensure that you are recognizing your own desires as they happen and you are doing things that transcend those things. You're not denying your desire. And if you want to, have a family with a woman that maybe is worthy for you and you're worthy for her, well, then yeah, go for it. Go for it. Why not? Um, Dylan Isis, any personal tidbits to break through to one's longest streak yet? Stop worrying about streaks. ATAP, what's one experience you've had on SR that completely changed your life? There's been so many, honestly. The one that really stands out when it comes to uh, the true power of SR was at about the 6 month mark. Uh, because this was years ago now, I'm approaching year 4. About the 6 month mark, I was working and I work remote at the time. And I'm working in my little studio apartment. A shack might have been an upgrade. And I'm working there, and then all of a sudden, for nearly every day for the next week, I would have a woman, a very attractive young woman, come in with she would knock on my door and she'd have a wine bottle and she'd try to flirt with me and such. And I'm like, where the hell did these women come from? Like, where, like, they were very attractive women, like some of the most attractive women that I've at that point ever had come into contact with. And it was just a very bizarre experience. And that really showed me that I'm renewing if you want to call them sins of the past, I'm renewing those things. You see, sin isn't like when you talk about sin uh, as a religionist, if you're a religionist and you talk about sin and you say, okay, well, sin is bad. It's like, okay, yeah, it is. However, it's only bad if you think that it is. Now, I'm not saying that you should negate the fact that there are going to be things that negatively impact your life, but God doesn't punish you. God doesn't punish you. God will show you that what you're doing is not going to benefit your self love and awareness in the long run. And your punishment is going to be the consequences of that in that timeline. Because causes and effects only exist in timelines. And so when the cause and the effect only exist in timelines, when you operate outside of the timeline in timelessness while experiencing the timeline that you're on, then you're going to recognize that sin doesn't really exist. Sin only exists if you think that it exists. It's not to say that you're going to do things that are negative or that can be negative in the long run. It's just that there's something more to this, right? Let's see. St. James, is it true that SR will give you more luck in casinos? Why the fuck are you guys so focused on luck in casinos? Casinos are like, that's where degenerates go, bro. Now, look, you can have a good time there if you want to. I'm not saying anything like that, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why you guys are so focused on like gambling and such. See that those are the things that you like. Those are the things that are going to get you nowhere. I mean, maybe you could get somewhere with it if you're lucky, but it's not going to get you really up anywhere. Let's see here. Thoughts on rage baiting in a spiritual aspect? Asks the 3-3 NPC. Are you a non-player consciousness, bro? Thoughts on rage baiting in a spiritual aspect? I don't know what you mean by that exactly. Are you talking about rage baiting as yeah, I guess I just don't know what you mean by that at all. Um Hawk Turn says people will be placed in your life to test your reactions and new mindset to interacting with them. SR is self-love to getting to know yourself better as God intended. Pretty much. Uh, Dion Perkins, do you believe the fallen angels are here today? Well, it depends on what you mean by fallen angels. Okay, this is something else that we've talked about in the Regal Academy just a couple weeks ago, actually, in our Sunday call. And we defined fallen angels as spirits from another domain bringing in technology that is from another domain. So, fallen angels, like these titles, right? Everybody wants a title for something because it feels it helps them feel like they're understanding, but it's not actually an understanding. You're still labeling things. I mean, can you look at this cup filled with water and not give a name for it? Right? Because I just did, right? I said, "Hey, look at this cup. It's filled with water." Can you look at something and not name it? Is that possible for you? Because if it's not possible for you, then uh yeah, I mean, these questions are not going to get you very far. Let's see here. I'll take a few more questions and then we'll begin to wrap up for sure. Q Boyder says, "Will you be uploading this live later on? I'd love to be able to watch what I missed." Yeah, that's the hope. That's the hope. I'd like to have it up later on. Uh, yeah, depending. We talked about some interesting things during this live, so we'll see. Um, yeah. Uh, let's see. N. Wigginton says, "I went 400 days roughly 3 years ago, and I've never gone that long again. I seem to do worse and worse with the practice." I've seen this happen sometimes with people where they go for a long streak and then they do worse. Uh, Really, what happens for that is your own unconscious mind kind of playing tricks on you. The way that I see it is that it's an unconscious projection that needs to be resolved either through the sheer will that you have to be a better person and the obsession that you have to be a better person, or just to accept it. Just accept it. Just accept that it's getting difficult. And in that acceptance, you will find retribution. The bus asks, "Is there any way to experience less flat lines?" No. I know that's probably not the answer that you're looking for, but no. You're going to experience what you're going to experience. That's just the main thing. Dion Perkins, are we in the end of times? End of times or end of timelines? This is where if you look at the Bible, if you look at the Bible from a place of timelessness, you'll see it as a map of consciousness. Okay? It doesn't have, like, yes, there might be an end of times. There might be. Yeah, I mean, we've seen this with the Phoenix phenomenon, potentially, astrologically speaking. We've seen this with other types of forms of astrological signs and such throughout the history of time. That these things are very much so a part of the construct that we live in, and the resets do happen. And I think it's entirely possible that the Gregorian calendar, for example, that was created in the 1500s, was a part of a reset that we don't know exactly what happened before that, because everything is now dated based off of the Gregorian calendar. And so here's the thing, right? Like when we see the end of times, it depends on what you mean by the end of times, and it depends on what you mean by time. I don't think there can technically be an end of times, technically speaking. I just don't. Because in this physical plane is everlastingness. Like, if you think about the 4 dimension and the 5 dimension, okay, this is something that I was thinking about yesterday, right? Let's take an object that goes into the second dimension. This 3 dimensional object goes into the second dimension. In the second dimension, you can only move side to side and forward and across, right? So if a third dimensional object goes through the second dimension, what happens? Well, it just appears, like in this instance, as a circle. It would just appear as a circle. And like, oh, how did that circle get here? Says the 2 dimensional space. Like, they don't know. They don't know they don't know how the circle got there, but it just appeared and then it disappeared. I think the same thing can happen when it comes to quantum physics with the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension. The timeline theory suggests that we live in a space that is limitlessness in of itself. And in that limitlessness of itself, in of itself, is a form in which we can experience perceived time, but that timelessness is always going to be there. And that's really why, like the female attraction stuff, the money stuff, that's that's again like level 2. We're at like level 1,000 here. Okay, we're level 1,000. I'm one of the OG semen retention creators, as far as I can tell, anymore. Anymore. I'm not saying I am. I'm just saying that it seems to me like most people that are on SR anymore, they just want to talk about the benefits. It's like, no, 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 no. Yeah, the benefits are going to happen, but what's so cool, what's really cool, what's going to really knock your socks off is questioning everything. Like you question everything and you see the true beauty and the awe that we are no longer ever going to be immune to in this world, because our childlike qualities of ourselves is so eminent in us, and we are just emanating that childlike wonder because we are no longer stuck in a cycle of timelines and time loops. We exist outside of that dimension, even though we're still here. We're interdimensional beings. That is the true creme de la creme of the semen retention journey. Let's see. Mr. Demios says, as a follower of Jesus, what do you think about going to church every Sunday? What is your perspective of it? Could you please elaborate? Are you asking as you a follower of Jesus? Because me, I don't necessarily think that I'm a follower of Jesus anymore. I'm not abandoning Jesus. I don't not revere Jesus, but I don't know if I would say I'm a follower of Jesus Christ anymore, technically speaking. I do try to embody what he teaches. And does that make me a follower of Jesus? I don't know. But I think that the truth is just the truth. It doesn't matter really who says it. The truth is going to stand on its own. What is your perspective of it? I don't go to church. I'm not a religionist. Okay. I think with all that being said, we've got the main message out of this video and this live. I'm very grateful for you all for sharing this divine timing with me, and I'm very appreciative of this openness within this conversation and this dialogue. I'm very pleased and very grateful to have this kind of platform in which I can participate with you all, and I hope everybody stays blessed. Peace be with you. Until next time.